Welcome to the Prevail Over Cancer Podcast, where we take a metabolic approach to help guide you on preventing, prevailing, and striving over cancer.
We are live. We are live on the Prevail Over Cancer podcast. I am your host, Jeff Lopes.
Yeah.
Got the wave there, Keith Bishop, my co-host.
That's right.
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing amazing. We are on episode 28 already, which is pretty incredible. And we have a topic
That's
that
right. Half of a year now.
Yeah.
Half of a year now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been pretty amazing. And God, every week, where I talk about this all the time, the amount of individuals reaching out, thanking us for this podcast or fan mail and stuff like that is incredible. The viewership is going up week by week, more and more and more. So we're doing something amazing here. So I'm very proud of everything we're doing with this podcast. And I love everything you do with your posts and the amount of people you're helping, which is incredible considering you're doing it full time now. So it's pretty incredible what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So this week's topic, we're on, like I said, number 28. We're going to talk about coffee. We kind of dove into it in an earlier podcast, coffee and tea, but we didn't really dive into coffee and the benefits of coffee and the health benefits. There are so many health benefits of coffee, and it also it kind of circulates around cancer and the benefits for cancer survivors. But there's also negative aspects of cancer where, I mean, it's one of the most sought after beverage in the world. So when that is happening, I mean, how many of these actual coffee bean fields are being sprayed because it's such a big business? So there's a lot of pesticides involved. And then we're talking about coffee and faster options are out there now, which is not a good thing. When you talk about coffee pods and you're talking about drip coffee. So there's a lot of negative aspects that could cause health concerns when you're trying to get something that's actually good for you, which is black coffee. And so let's talk about all that. Let's talk about the negatives, talk about the positives, Let's talk about how it affects cancer. What are the benefits for cancer? So coffee is something, black coffee. It's a big part of my morning routine because of my fasting. I usually have, I was having maybe one, but I'm up to about 3 coffees every morning. I have one because my morning routine changed where I jump in the sauna. I'm in the sauna by 5:30 every morning. I do a stretch.
Instead of the 9.
Yeah. So I switched that about 6 months ago. So every morning, my wife's up super early. So she's up at 5. She sets the sauna. So sauna's ready at 5:30. I come down. I literally go right into the sauna. I get it right into the sauna. I do a 20-minute extreme sauna. I come out. I do a kind of a body vibration, which I kind of jump on the same spot for like 100 times. I do my deep breathing. I do some stretching, and I do my lymphatic massages. And then all that takes about half an hour. And then I'm jump in the shower and I'm ready to start my day. So I do that every morning. But as soon as I get up, I'm chugging down a black coffee. When I'm done my shower, I can jump on the computer, answer some emails, have my second cup of coffee. And then when I get to work before lunch, I have my 3rd cup now. And then I break my fast after around 12:30 or so, 12:30 mark. Let's talk about how much coffee you intake. So I'm taking about 3 glasses or cups a day. How much do you intake? And what do you recommend?
I do about 3 cups. I do about 3 cups, but it depends on the person. So, for example, I'm a fast metabolizer of caffeine.
Yeah.
And I have my first cup first thing in the morning, similar to you. Actually, I'll drink my cup of coffee while I'm in the sauna.
Yeah.
And so to actually elevate or increase my internal temperature.
Yeah.
And to help that process go a little faster. And then I might have just a tiny bit more later, after that, after I take my shower, I may tap another little partial cup on that. And then I'll have another cup after lunch. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of spread it out a little bit. And then I'll have another cup in the evening. So I can do that and go to sleep. So I can literally have a cup at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And then at 9 o'clock, I go to sleep.
See, I can't do that.
And so my body, exactly. So, but that's okay. Yeah. But my body can metabolize it. So therefore I can do that. And, but now since you can't do that, the way you're doing it is great. And because we don't want you to have sleep problems.
No.
And matter of fact, there's some people, if they have more than even 1 cup, and some people can't even have 1 cup. It just makes them feel bad. And they're sensitive. They can feel their heart pounding and get nervous and anxious. So they would need to make a change.
Could you build your body up to that? Is that something because your body's not used to that amount of caffeine? Could it build almost a resistance to it?
Well, it could, yes, exactly. You could build some tolerance. And maybe that's one reason why I can also do it at night. Yeah. Because I've had 2 to 3 cups of coffee for 40 years.
My father would drink 5, 6, sometimes 7 espressos a day. Espressos, which are short, little, strong shots, and he could have one at 9:30 at night and be in bed by 10 o'clock out cold. It wouldn't affect him at all. And if I have a coffee past 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon, or sometimes in the evening, I just want that taste in my mouth. So I'll just have one. I'll make a small little cup. I'll make it a little weaker. I'll do instant coffee with Nescafe, and I'll sit there and zip on it. And then 2 in the morning, I'm like wide awake, like, oh my God, why did I have that coffee? I got to turn, toss and turn. So it does affect me in the evening time like that. So, but let's talk about the benefits of coffee. So everybody obviously has a different tolerance towards it. You have to figure out your own tolerance, figure out you don't want it to affect your sleep, because sleep is obviously a huge important part of battling cancer. What are the benefits towards cancer?
Well, it's a bean.
Yep.
And it's a food, and it has antioxidants in it. And those antioxidants help the body to function and repair better. It is a little bit of a mental stimulant too, the caffeine and other nutrients that are in that, a little bit of a mental acuity and attention. But it is definitely an anti-cancer food. And it's not the caffeine necessarily that is the cancer ingredient. That may have a little bit of an effect. But even a good decaffeinated coffee, can have some anti-cancer effect. So it's actually those other ingredients. But decaffeinated coffee, has been diluted and washed out. In the process of washing out the caffeine, you're going to lose some of the other beneficial nutrients. So decaffeinated, for those that have that feeling and they can't because of the caffeine issue, and they have a hard time detoxifying the caffeine out of the body, they can go with a quote caffeine free. Actually, it means low caffeine in the cup as an option, but it just won't work quite as well. So that would be an option for a person they could do a caffeine in the morning, and then move over to a decaffeinated later in the day would be a definite option if they want to try to get some more, better options for anti-cancer nutrients. So, and it does take, actually at least 2 mugs or two cups a day, if not mugs, at least to kind of get that anti-cancer effect. A smaller person wouldn't require as much. A larger guy that's 300 pounds is going to have more to have that same type of effect. So you have to have enough of it. Caffeinated coffee is stronger and better, and decaf coffee is a little bit weaker, and it won't work quite as well.
So give me an understanding. So you're looking at the caffeine aspect of it. You're looking at the benefits of it. How does it affect your body when you're talking about the cancer benefits of it? It is cellular structure. Like, how does it benefit you?
Well, it's like a lot of herbs. It is really an herb. It's an extract. Yeah. You've brewed that. You've made an extract out of it, into the water. And so you're extracting out the water soluble active ingredients, but it helps to repair the DNA and even may help out with, it's kind of interesting, the coffee helps the liver to function better.
Interesting.
And so more specifically for liver cancer, which is kind of different because a lot of people have, there's a time back in the 80s and 90s, coffee was vilified.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's bad for you, and it knocks out your adrenals, and it's toxic, all these kind of things. But now that we're studying it and learning more, there's definitely some benefits. So actually, drinking coffee reduces the risk of liver cancer. So it helps the liver to function better, and it actually helps lower blood glucose levels a little bit more. And then that may be the liver cancer, kind of a thing there. So there's, it's more like, I think of an antioxidant detoxification type effect, in the body. And antioxidant means it repairs cells so that the DNA is not damaged.
Yeah.
And so therefore a damaged DNA, if that cell replicates, that's where we may run into a cancer development. That cell could become cancerous and start replicating that same damage.
Have you ever recommended caffeine pills to anybody? Is that something that you've ever done supplement wise?
No.
Okay.
Not in, I have done that before for convenience when I was in college. That was me. Yeah.
Back in my 18, 19 years old, I was really into weight training, and we used to take this is crazy now that I think about it. I used to take to get ready to stimulate my body, to burn more calories, to burn more fat, to get ready for a workout. When I was 18, 19, I would take a mixture of ephedrine, aspirin, and caffeine pills.
Yes.
That was the
APC,
whatever it is,
acronym for that kind of. Yeah.
You would mix that up, and you would sweat more, you burn more calories, you'd be pumped for your workout, you get a better pumps, you feel you're more vascular. You would feel it. It would be like almost like a pre-workout, like just get you going kind of thing. And we would do that. And now that I go back and think of it, it was probably the dumbest thing I could probably have done, but that was one thing we would do. And and like I said, I did it for a couple of years, probably on and off, to get ready for our workouts.
Well, the caffeine does increase your heart rate, and so it will beat faster, which means you're going to burn more carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And so your blood glucose level will probably be a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, it depends. Actually, it's known that people that drink coffee have a tendency to go hypoglycemic faster than people that don't drink coffee with a meal.
Interesting.
So it actually increases the heart rate, and you'll burn more calories.
Yeah.
So be careful about trying to do that for weight loss. And because there's many things that we can do, but it is a factor. And so, for a lot of people in the United States, there's a lot of people that coffee could be their number one source, if not almost their only source of antioxidants.
Interesting.
Because they aren't eating their vegetables and fruits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the only issue, if you're talking about individuals like that, they're not only just drinking coffee, they're drinking coffee with their donuts. They're drinking coffee with...
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of other things that they're not doing.
That's definitely not going to balance out your body.
No, not at all. Not trying to say that. I'm just saying that, it is an antioxidant source. It is a bean. It is an extract from a bean. Yeah. And beans are food, provide antioxidants. And it's kind of a weird thing. Coffee is a burnt item.
Yeah.
And so, matter of fact, they can measure the acrylamide, that is in that. There's a few carbs in that bean. And when they roast that, turn it dark, there are a few acrylamides. But this is what's I find very interesting from a scientific standpoint. Even though there are some acrylamides in this, the amount of antioxidants overwhelm that.
Interesting.
And so that acrylamide exposure is not a major concern. As a matter of fact, overall research is not completely supporting the acrylamide cancer connection. So, because those foods don't seem to always, it could be other factors like other sugars and carbohydrates in some of those acrylamide foods. Yeah. So, or foods with the high acrylamides, like the French fries, it could be all the starches and sugars that they now put in the French fries. Instead of real potatoes.
Yeah, and also all the seed oils are fried in and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's other things that may not be just the acrylamide issue. Yeah. And anyway, so because I know somebody's going to say that and make a comment about it. Yes, there are acrylamides. We're addressing that, but the antioxidants outweigh the acrylamide issue.
Do you buy organic coffee or you just drink regular coffee?
I'm blessed. I can afford it. And I consider it actually to be such an important part of my life that I do buy organic, and because I want to limit those chemicals, because we don't know for sure what other countries are doing, and these come from other countries. So this is not something that's locally. I can't talk to the person, so I do try to go with responsible sources and organic to reduce that concern of pesticides.
You're hearing a lot more and more about, because it's a bean that's probably the number one processed or produced bean in the world, grown bean in the world, I should say, because the amount of coffee that's sold every single day worldwide is insane. I mean, Europe, it's just a staple. Canada is a staple. US is growing like wildfire. The amount of coffee shops, talked about this prior to going on here, opening up everywhere. When you're looking at all this, and most of these fields are owned by international big conglomerate companies.
Yes.
I mean, it's all a money game, right? It's amount of, they cannot be throwing away product. So the amount of pesticides are being used, and I'm reading more and more about that in coffee, is insane. It's probably, this thing is one of the most pesticide filled products that's out there on the market right now. So when you hear that, you sit back and you're like, wow. But at the same time too, organic coffee, unless you're going to a health food store or a health food section, it's not readily available in most grocery stores. So it's not something that you could buy on a regular basis. And if you are going to buy it, you're paying a premium for it because it's not regularly available.
Yes. And that is frustrating, but with time, and we talked about that before, with time, as we encourage, and those of us that can buy that and can afford it and can get it, that's going to encourage more companies to go organic.
Yeah.
And so with time, and so, I will drink if I'm traveling. We had another podcast about that, but traveling, I will take a mug with me, insulated stainless steel mug, definitely for that later the day type of thing. And sometimes even take another, and just let it stay at room temperature, to get my third cup in. Definitely. I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
And because I can choose to go with my organic, whenever possible. But if I'm gone longer periods of time, or a place where I can't take those liquids at the airport, I will drink other coffees. But
I would say probably, if you're looking at numbers, I'm just throwing this out there, and I'm on top of my head, I would say high 90s% of the coffee that's intaked is not organic, because every coffee shop, no one's selling organic coffee. No coffee shop. I don't even think
that's correct.
You see anything in that here. So it's something that there's a lot of benefit to it, but it's something that people have to start being aware of, because it's something that I could see later on, because the amount of consumption that coffee intake people are intaking over time, you're going to start hearing more about it as time passes, right?
Yes, exactly. So we have to encourage that whenever possible, and support those really smaller businesses and farmers that do that, and try to go with organic when possible.
Yeah. So next aspect of coffee. So there's so many different forms of coffee. We talked about off air. I mean, every day in the morning, I'll have my glass jars of Nescafe instant coffee. I'll put a couple scoops of that. I love the smell of it. Put some boiling water. I'm good to go. So there's instant coffee. There's drip coffee. We're going to talk about all of them, but instant coffee, good, bad. What's your thought process on instant coffee?
It actually is pretty good.
Okay.
And so it's made from brewed coffee.
Yeah.
The only other potential concern is you have to read the ingredient label, and sometimes they add other things to it.
Yeah.
And to help with the drying process. So what they do is they have to evaporate that out. And most companies do a good job with that nowadays. At one time, they probably didn't.
Yeah.
They used to use some chemicals to help that evaporate out quicker. Now they have a tendency to add, maybe even some grains and cellulose and some other things to help absorb some of the liquids, and facilitate that, or for the flavor. So some companies, they have a recipe, for their flavor, and so they want it to be consistent. So every batch, every day that they make is going to be the same as the previous day. So they have a recipe of the bean and other ingredients that they may add to it. So overall, instant, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm a coffee snob. You know, I will grind my own beans, and and my wife actually, there's something else real quick. Not everybody likes coffee.
No.
And there's actually genetics involved, and it's a taste. So some people genetically do not like bitter foods.
Interesting.
And there is a taste bud that is responsible for that. And so some people, my wife's family was that way. So her and her brother do not like coffee. And they refuse to drink coffee unless it's got the bad stuff in it, sweeteners, creamers, and things like that, which that really that negates what we're trying to do. So not everybody's going to like it, but perhaps you can drink a little bit and train yourself to like that. So and I do know people that do that, and they just kind of start off with just a little bit and a little bit more, and then after about 5 years, they're drinking a cup a day or something like that. That would be another option to build up that tolerance and that taste, to develop that taste. So, and then, so instant is okay. Actually a whole bean, is fresh ground bean is my preference.
Yeah.
And so
the more natural you could get, the better it is, no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
With coffee, you're seeing more and more advertising, more marketing towards, quicker options for coffee being brewed. We're talking about there's 10 or 15 companies out there right now with coffee pods, and everywhere you go, you're seeing a coffee pod, or you're seeing your higher, better grade versions of drip coffee now. And all these, the coffee is being processed through plastic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Big no, but it's available everywhere, and people are literally going crazy for these things now. Let's talk a bit about that and talk about the negatives aspect of it.
Yeah. So that everything from, those pods have kind of like a metal top on them, and you're puncturing that. So now you've got some metal that you're exposing to the hot water, and then the paint that's on the outside of the metal.
Yeah.
I mean, they have words and brands and logos and stuff like that. So you're poking that down into your brew. And then have you ever torn a pod apart and looked at it?
No.
And so I was helping a doctor to develop a vitamin supplement that he wanted to put in a pod. And so I thought, well, okay, what's in that pod? And so we tore it apart and looked at that. It's a plastic filter.
That's all it is.
Yeah. It's a plastic filter. And so so the coffee's up here, there's a filter here, and then kind of like a little bit of an empty spot, and because there's going to be a hole poked in there for it to drip through.
Yeah.
So, and so it's a plastic filter. And so it's well known that plastic filters, like tea bags, coffee filters, most white bleached coffee filters, and coffee pods, are going to have microplastics in them.
Yeah.
Microplastics are estrogenic type ingredients. They're toxic they're chemicals too. I mean, not just the estrogen factor, but there's all kinds of chemicals involved in those plastics. The hot water dissolves those plastics into your brew, and you're going to be drinking that in your body. Yeah. And so I avoid pods.
Yeah.
It's extremely rare for me to have a pod.
And we're talking about plastics and these microplastics. I mean,
right.
There's evidence that, I can't remember the stat, but I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying it was like in the high 60s or 70% of people, if they do proper blood tests, they're finding microplastics in most people's bloods now.
Yes, exactly. And they're finding microplastics in the tumor cells,
which is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. So they remove that tumor. So now they're looking at it microscopically. Oh, I mean, they're even seeing it with a microscope. They're not having to use the fancy tests to find the microplastics, but they're finding the plastics, inside the tumor cells.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, there's that much of it floating around in the body. So I really feel like, kind of like processed foods and plastics, which processed foods a lot of times come in, or fast foods come in, but processed foods and plastics are like the major cause of this higher cancer concern that's happening now. and younger people getting cancer because they're being exposed to these chemicals much earlier for longer periods of time, and so we're going to see some major cancer problems.
And the numbers are growing every day higher and higher, and these are big reasons why, because it's all about convenience. We live in a world of convenience. Everything's fast food, quicker coffee time, everything's speed. And the more we have, the more we want. There's no patience for waiting for a coffee to be brewed anymore.
Yes. And so, matter of fact, and in the equipment. So therefore, this quick, brewed, type of a thing, I love to use a pour over filter for my single cup. Yeah. I'm going to make a single cup, a stainless steel cone filter without even a paper filter in it. It's laser cut, tiny holes in that.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a couple of minutes, for a cup of water to boil, and then another minute to pour that over. And it's a great time to whether do a little bit of meditation or breathing, or even for me, I'm doing modified push-ups against the kitchen counter, and people laugh at me all the time, but even on vacation, I'm at somebody's house, and a family member's house, and here there's Papa doing the push-ups, against the kitchen counter while waiting on that to boil. And so, matter of fact, years ago, I remember my father's generation and before, they had metal percolators and glass percolators. It was glass and metal on the stovetop boiling. Yeah, it took some time.
Yeah.
But they didn't use paper filters. They had that metal basket.
Yeah.
And so things are a lot different and a lot worse now, for that. So I'm a big fan of I use a French press, and matter of fact, I have a glass one, and I have matter of fact, I even do a cold. We'll talk about that when it's wintertime. I have a glass one that I put out and make a sun coffee.
Yeah,
and I'll set it out all day long out in the sunshine in the summertime, and then that's going to be part of my cold brew.
Yeah,
we'll put that cold brews later, and then better use a French a French press, because it's got glass or a stainless steel container, and then the metal filter. It's a great way. Maybe that's why Europe doesn't have as much cancer as the United States, because we adapted this microwave instant technology much more so than
their
Europe.
Coffee. I was in Portugal this summer, and their coffee is pretty much just espresso. They have an espresso, and then they have something called a galon, which is like an espresso, and it's natural organic milk. They don't use pesticides there. They don't use chemicals. They don't use hormones. So it's literally espresso with milk. That's their normal coffee. Or you just have an espresso, which is 99% of people, they're at a cafe in the morning or anything like that, and that's their coffee. They don't call it espresso. Mm-hmm. It's their coffee. It's a little, either a double or a single shot, and it's just an espresso, and they're just zipping on it in their morning time. So it's a different mindset. I mean, their lifestyle is a lot more healthy, more natural than we are here in North America. So when you're looking at coffee, I mean, we'll go back to the beginning. We're looking at consumption 2, in a perfect world, even 3 cups a day, or mugs a day would be ideally perfect for the amount to get the antioxidant effects.
Yes, correct.
Instant coffee. One thing I want to talk about also is when you're doing instant coffee, a lot of people are boiling water. They have their quick boilers. Make sure you have a glass one, not a plastic one, when you're actually boiling the water.
Correct.
So a lot of people, a lot of the companies, the cheaper ones, are still made out of some form of plastic. So have a glass one or a stainless steel one. So that's very, very important. If you do have a stainless steel one, make sure over time there's no rust on the bottom, anything like that. So just make sure you clean it on a regular basis. But instant coffee is, like I said, I do it. I think it's my best option for the speed factor of it. You put it 2 spoons, you boil the water, and it is ready in 60 seconds. You're good to go. When you're looking at machines, drip, anything like that, let's talk about that too. That's pretty much the same process as the pods.
Yes, right. Yeah. And matter of fact, so when you open that up, so whether it be a pod machine, you look at that boiling water, and they're boiling the water, and then that boiling water is going through plastic and rubber type tubing.
Yeah.
That's not good. And the same thing with the drip coffee machine, which in the United States is, like the thing that if you're going to make more than one cup, you're using a drip coffee maker. It's same thing. When you look inside there, you can see all of the rubber tubing and the plastics. You got hot water running through that. It's going to break that down.
Yeah.
And so that is a concern. And then the baskets are plastic.
Yeah.
The filters contain plastic. And so just every step until you get into the craft or the container that's going to often is a glass or silicate, container, which that part is the only good part. Every single step of that, everything from the moment you pour the water into the plastic container, through the plastic and rubber tubing, through the drip, through the filter, everything is plastic. And literally they're measuring trillions of microplastics in your coffee after that process.
Which is crazy.
It's
crazy.
way too much. And we shouldn't be doing that. And so, so most of the time I'm going to go with, better options. While traveling, I might do that temporarily if I have to. When I go to a convenience store while traveling, a gas station, they've got these machines. I might go ahead and do that. That's definitely not a great idea, but I'd rather drink the coffee, that day, and the next day knowing I'm going to get back to the normal thing. So that's an extreme rare type thing. Once again, I'm taking my insulated mug with me. And even when I go on camping trips, I'm taking my coffee with me, insulated mugs, in the saddlebags, on the horses. So I'm always taking those with me. And I will use instant. I have an instant, I'll take that with me on those trips. Dehydrated, it's lightweight, it's easy. I can boil the water, put in some coffee, and I've got it. So we'll do that definitely. But I use my metal cups, while doing that. So I'm not going to do the plastic.
Let's talk about one last thing before we wrap this up for our podcast number 28 on coffee. Drive-throughs. Everyone's going through drive-through. Once again, it's all about convenience. You're grabbing a cup, hot boiling coffee in a paper cup.
Oh, yes.
One option we're going to give to everyone is have your mug, your stainless steel mug or ceramic mug in your vehicle. If you are getting it quick as you can, pour it into the mug. That's
exactly.
Just a quick little thing to do, because once again, the plastics, the coating inside those cups. If you actually grab one of those cups and look, you can feel it's like a plastic coating you can feel inside those cups. That keeps the form of the paper. If they didn't have that, the paper would fall apart with the boiling water.
Exactly, almost instantly. So they have to have a coating inside, if not infused in with the the plastic itself, a plastic cup or a paper cup with the plastic lining. Definitely a concern. So yes, I keep a stainless mug in my truck, in my wife's van, in my horse trailer. So I've almost always got it with me.
Yeah.
And so it's rare for me to drink out of a plastic or styrofoam. Styrofoam's the same type of issue.
Yeah.
The same chemicals. And matter of fact, there's research showing that styrofoam type things increase the risk of testicular cancer.
And you think of fast food in the 80s and 90s. Where did it all come inside?
Yeah.
Styrofoam.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it still does.
Not in North America. No, it's more just paper now. It's paper, cardboard stuff. But you still remember going to McDonald's as a kid, and it'd be your Big Mac would come in a styrofoam little opener and stuff like that, right?
Well, here, I don't go to fast food restaurants that much. So I really don't know, but I know I go to a restaurant and I want to take some food home.
You're right. Home. It is a styrofoam still. You are
styrofoam.
Right.
And different versions of it.
Right.
There's the white ones and the black ones, and plastic. But also, I'm not as concerned about a cool food being in there. For short-term storage, but it's the hot. It dissolves. It breaks things down. In chemistry, in my training, pharmacists in chemistry, heat is a process to help that that formation, chemical change take place, or to dissolve things. And pharmacy compounding, they still use that. So heat, in plastic is the problem.
Yeah. Which is every single drive-through in North America, right?
Yes. Oh, and it's so common. All the different chains. We were talking about that too, about all the chains that are, coming up. We had different ones in different countries, but it's becoming so common to drive through that and get paid way too much money for that cup of coffee at that chain.
Yeah.
You sit in the line, you pay the money. That's wrong. You need, I'm a firm believer, you need to brew that at home, save your money, get a better cup, and be healthier.
I love it. I think we're going to end it off with that. So, we gave a lot of information, and I love the bare fact that it's coffee is a staple, and God, it's been a staple to me for years. But black coffee, I think I incorporated that into regularly drinking it probably about 6-7 years ago. I slowly stopped adding sugars. There was a while I was putting sweeteners into it, and then I kind of slipped away from that. So now it's just my black coffee. I have it in the morning. I absolutely love it. It's something I won't live without. And I think there's a lot of people like that. So it's just, if it is a staple in your diet, make the healthier choices, because your body will thank you in the long run.
Exactly.
This is awesome, buddy. Till next week, like always, thank you, Keith.